All right, good morning. Can everybody that's in virtual world today hear us? We get like a thumbs up or a nod or a thumbs up.
It's coming in saying yes.
All right, so I just told the group here, we are actually experimenting a little bit today with this new capability that we have. So there is a presenter camera that will be following me around today as I speak, as well as the other presenters. We just wanted to first and foremost welcome you today. Happy St. Patrick's Day if you celebrate that. Nice gloomy day today for that. But we will get going this morning. Again, I'm Steve Moran. I'm a special ed consultant here at the state support team. And I also have a couple other colleagues here in person. Aaron, Curtis, Kim Legault, and our director, Gochi Koy, is also here. We also have Cindy Eldridge, who's the executive director of student services with the ESC of Central Ohio.
It's okay.
All right, so we are going to adjust the schedule a little bit today. I think we have a little bit of extra built-in time, so we should get done early. But first and foremost, I just want to do like kind of an opening. We try to do an optimistic opening. What is that what we call it?
Welcoming ritual.
Welcoming ritual, I'm sorry. As part of our SEL that we kind of do training on, so we try to build that practice into our meetings and gatherings with districts. So if you are in virtual world, I'm going to send you to a few breakout rooms. We've got about 25 people. Think of something you know way too much about. This could be a sport, this could be hiking trails, maps, whatever it may be. The more I think one-off it is to like normal knowledge, I think the more interesting these conversations can be. So if you are in person, just ask that you find somebody in the room that you don't know. Think about something you know way too much about, and then maybe if you want to share how you got to that point where you learned all that, or some crazy fact about it, we'll do that for a few minutes just so people can network a little bit, even in a virtual world, as well as people that are in person. So I'm gonna go ahead and break everybody out online into some small breakout rooms. It's going to be all random. So hopefully you're with somebody that you don't know or somebody that you haven't seen in a while, and you can reconnect and learn something interesting about them. And in person, we will do the same thing, probably for 5 to 7 minutes, and then we will bring everybody together and get started on the rest of the content. So we are going on mute here. I will also be, we also have somebody monitoring the computer if there are questions, but I will open the rooms. You guys are free to go, and we will see you back in about 5 to 8 minutes.
That's so funny.
So how many do you have?
All right, thank you for that. We're hoping a couple people can share. If there's somebody that is somebody that's on virtual world, that wants to come on and share, tell who they met, introduce themselves to, and either their fact they know way too much about or the person they met. Nobody wants to share. Come on, somebody out there. No?
I'll jump in here, Steve.
All right.
I had the opportunity to meet Lynn Barris Lincoln, and we found out we're neighbors.
I love that.
All right. Anybody else in virtual land? I want to hear some fun facts.
Steve, I was able to meet Abby and Debbie. Unfortunately, Debbie is way too familiar with complaints at the moment. So we were kind of talking about that a little bit.
All right. Unfortunately, we are too at times. We have a lot in common. Anybody here that's in person? Care to share?
I met Gwen from Granville, and we did not follow your prompt. We just talked about our respective districts.
Okay. Anybody else? One fact?
We followed your prompts. And she knows way too much about a whole bunch of random different facts, such as the fact that like foil paper, it doesn't matter that it's shiny on one side or not, it doesn't make a difference. You can turn it either way. It's just because the machine it goes on, like it just shines the top. That's what I said. I just wanted to always ponder that. So she knows way too much about a lot of really random facts. But I'm pretty awesome to know, because I'm gonna go home and do that.
Thursday night trivia partner.
Right, exactly. Like, pick Kim. That's Kim.
All right, so the purpose of that, we just like to get people's juices flowing in the morning. You can kind of create whatever type of opening activity you want, but it does really get people thinking as far as the social emotional component of it. It puts people on common ground, allows them to have conversations with people they haven't met, but it also kind of prompts the conversation. So students that might not feel comfortable, adults that might not feel comfortable, have something that they can kind of communicate on and get things going for the morning or the day or the afternoon, whatever it may be. So that is that piece. We will move in. We have some updates, SST updates. Congratulations to our Associate Director, Greg Matthews, on his second, third, I'm not totally sure, retirement. Those of you that have been around the Columbus area know, everybody seems to know Greg with his knowledge, not beyond his knowledge, but also his advocacy for children, families and parents. He's always on the front lines of that, but also his one-liners. We will definitely miss the one-liners in the office. So I don't know, Greg, do you want to say anything to the group? This is kind of our last time you get in front of everybody. I don't know if you want to share any thoughts that you might have.
Yeah, let me just say it's, I've been doing this for 20 years now between the CERC and the SST, and it's just been very, very rewarding work helping districts and community schools get through the maze of regulations and monitoring and complaints. And, we just have a really, really good regional service delivery system. And as far as the SST goes, I can assure you all that you are going to be in very good hands. We have an excellent special ed support team at the SST. Steve's heading that up now and doing a great job, and Kim and Aaron and Dave and Joe and everybody else that works there is just outstanding. It's been a real pleasure working with those folks in the last year or so too. But anyhow, I've got a baby to take care of, so technically I'm off today, so I'm doing double duty. I'm attending this as well as keeping an eye on Amelia. So anyhow, thank you all very, very much. Thank you, SST, Goji, SST, Rhonda Dixon, that hired me there 20 years ago. And thanks to Dr. Goodney for allowing me to stick around for all this time. So anyhow, thank you all.
You're getting applause in here, Greg, and I'm sure out in the virtual world. So, yes, thank you to Greg. I know personally, professionally, Greg has been a mentor to me, as well as, many other people that he interacts with. He's often a voice of reason in some trying times for people, and is really able to just bring people back to the focus of being kids and best outcomes for them. So, Greg, we do appreciate all your time, all your work, all your guidance, and we will see you again in the office, hopefully. But I don't know, people here, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of leave them with some last thoughts. So thank you for that. So with that position opening for next year, starting in August, August 1st would be the start date. We do have positions listed on our website. If you go to the SST 11, and I put that link in there, there's also a participant folder today that you have a link to that you can get the link directly off here. But if you go to SST 11 website, go to the top right, it'll say careers. Click that, you'll see the positions posted down the right, and then to apply, you would just link there. It takes you to the applet track that everybody is familiar with, and you would go about that way. So we do have the assistant director position, special ed consultants in part-time and a full-time person, a school improvement full-time, part-time person, a new position here, urban PBIS specialist, and then career and technical planning district consultant position is posted. So if you are interested, know anybody, can recommend anybody, we're certainly open for that as well. Please do so. We are excited to grow our team and get some more people in here to support you all. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Cindy now for her updates, and then we will keep going with things.
Thank you. Hopefully won't mess this up. Good morning. It's so nice to see the people here, and whoever's online, good morning. I can't see you, I apologize. Just want to highlight a couple of things that are coming out of our center, and then also sharing some things that are coming out of some of the other centers in our agency. So the first one is Tutor Ohio Kids. If you haven't heard, ESC of Central Ohio was named in legislation last spring to oversee a statewide tutoring initiative. We are kind of in the process of rolling that out. It is where we find tutors, we hire tutors, and then we deploy them to districts. Districts get the choice of deciding who they want to use and in what way they want to use them, and where they want to. So it could be online, it could be in person, it could be after school, before school, during school, summer breaks, all of those kinds of things. Right now, the expectation is districts would pay for the tutors. You can use a couple of different funding streams to do that. I have provided a link in the PowerPoint that you can access that'll take you right to the page that shares some more information, or reach out to me if you have some questions. We are looking for tutors and districts, so if you know anybody that wants to tutor a little bit, send them our way, or if as a district you'd like some tutors, give us a call. Other one I want to highlight, this summer we're going to be providing OG training again. We have aligned with OG Academy, so I know there's a couple of different training options that are out there. We're offering 2 cohorts. So it is for content purposes, it's a 2-week training or a 10-day training. You'll see that second cohort is kind of spread between the end of June and in the second week of July. That's because 4th of July lands in the middle of the week. So we figured too many people might be taken off. This will probably be free. So that's my teaser to all of you. We still have some grant funds. What I am going to ask, last year when we did that, we offered it free. Unfortunately, we had some folks in the last minute cancel, which puts us in a really hard space. It's really hard to roll somebody in, the day before a 2-week training. That's complicated for many teachers to kind of figure that out. So I am going to encourage, if you want to encourage any of your staff to take this OG training, please also encourage them to honor the training and show up, because it was hard for us. Yeah.
Is it virtual or in person? Sorry, Kim.
Great question. It's in person, and we are partnering with Dublin, so it will be up on Dublin's Emerald campus. So it does help folks that maybe are traveling a little bit.
Is there a
yeah.
practicum piece?
There is, it's not embedded in this. So your folks can just do the content. We encourage them doing the practicum, and that would be spread out through the following year. Right now, we don't have funds to cover it. We are looking for ways to do that. Practicum, typically, it's 10 observations that they would do, and they can do that virtually. So folks can take video and then send that out. It runs usually about 200 an observation. And we do kind of have a list of folks that could provide that practicum. If we are looking for some funding streams to be able to support that, but I can't promise that right now.
But you would be able to provide names if we wanted
Yes,
to. And
yes.
at the end of that practicum, do they get the certification?
Yes, that's when they get that level 1. So,
Level
and
one
keep in mind,
certification.
you've got a couple of different entities, so
Yeah.
they call it different things, but it's an OG Academy, it's level 1.
Okay.
Okay? And if you have more questions about kind of the details of it, give me a call and I'll answer what I can and then connect you to the people that have even more information.
Is it posted yet?
No, it'll probably be posted this week, or, yeah, we just finalized, in fact, we're in the middle of finalizing a few other things with Mike and Cindy. Restorative practices, we have a couple of trainers out of our SOS team for restorative practices. They are going to provide a kind of an intro session June 12th. And then following that, they really are going to encourage coaching throughout next year. So feel free to come to that intro session. More information will be coming out next week or the week after. We're just finalizing some details. Again, we're looking to see if we can fund this internally so that there would be no cost to the district, but look for more information. Other one is Stack Institute. We do this every year, so this is not a new training that we do, but it's a great training. If you've got teachers that are working with students with autism and need to kind of understand how I might be able to design or set up a classroom that meets their needs. It is the last week of June. There will be a cost to that, and again, we anticipate that being posted up. I'm hoping by the end of the month is probably when we could see that posting. If you haven't heard, we've been trying to push this one out, but our RBT and BT modules that we've created, we have 2 BCBAs, Kate Wallace and Maddie Smith, who have designed some online training around behavior. We realize we hire some wonderful paraprofessionals, but don't necessarily skill them up on behavior. So 2 things you can think about. If you have somebody that you want to become an RBT, we have the pathway to do that. We would cover that cost. And the supervision and competencies that go with getting through the training. The thing you have to think about is when you're an RBT, you have to be supervised by a BCBA, and there are some really strict guidelines around supervision and the amount of time and what that looks like. So if you want to go that pathway, probably want to reach out to Kate or Maddie and just be sure or your own BCBA, understanding what's the supervision look like, because sometimes that's limiting on the way that you can use them or how you can use them. The other thing, that BT pathway, that specialized behavior technician, what we did is we took the competencies that are in the RBT, we developed our own content around what we figured were key competencies for school-based behavior technician. And so we can design that any way you want. I think about it as a flipped classroom. You can have your parapros or your teachers take a few of the modules, and then we will come in and facilitate the application of those modules. So Kate and Maddie just sit down with the district and design it any way that meets your needs. But those are really good, and we've been getting some really good feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, we are doing that in our district, and the way we've designed it, we're doing it by semester. So I had a lot of interest, and actually more from my teachers than I anticipated. A lot of the teachers want to do this, which is great because then they're going to have some of the same skills and knowledge as the parents that are going through this. But the way I designed it is there's 10 modules. We took the first 4 and scheduled those together, let the teachers have about 3 weeks to get through those, and then we scheduled a Google Meet with the Kate and Maddie here, and then they do the next 3, and then we have another Google Meet, and then the final 3. So I'm kind of putting it within a semester, and so this opportunity is good for another 2 years. So I'm hoping to have 4 more groups go through it after this one. I'm trying to do it myself, but I'm not keeping up the pace. It's just too much right now, but what I've done and the ones I've been through so far are excellent. Getting great feedback.
Great, good. And I'm just going to clarify, it's good for another year and the summer.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's under some ESSER funds.
Yeah.
And as you all know, when those run out, we will try to figure out a way to maintain it. But right now, both the modules and the facilitation are no cost, that's covered by the grant. So again, there's a link on there that'll take you to the website. It also has, I think, Kate's email. She's probably the one with the most information and would do that scheduling.
Does Kate go out? I know she's out for a long term, isn't she?
She's kind of out.
But I feel like she's out soon.
She will. She will be out in April. But yeah, you can either email me or I'm just going to leave it there before I get anybody in trouble. So I'm not going to say anymore. The last thing I put on there is just, we have a lot more summer opportunities that are coming out of our office, and some of them are coming out of the Center for Achievement. And so I just wanted to highlight a few of them. I'm going to say thank you to our Delaware group, because you all are helping us with our Elevate to Equity conference that happens in June. Great, first time we're doing this. I'm really excited about that opportunity. The other one, we offer the Summer Institute for Authentic Learning and Leadership. That's also in June. We have a literacy institute that's happening in June. So please go ahead and check out our website. That's the link. Or if you go into our site and just in the search bar, put summer opportunities, it'll take you to the page that kind of has all the different things that we'll be offering. One other thing I want to highlight, and for those of you that have been a part of my meetings where I talk to you and find out how things are going, we are bringing Stages of Learning to talk about the ARIS curriculum, which is really a curriculum designed for probably our more complex students. It right now is not web-based. It is going web-based, I think, next year. But some folks in our region have used it in kind of in concert with Unique Learning. So this is another one if you're wanting something. It's got some specific lesson plan designs that are in there, but you can set it. You can design it individually for each student if you need to do it, and you have control over what lessons you provide. It's called ARIS. We are doing a luncheon. We're doing a virtual lunch and learn. So you can bring your own lunch to your computer. That's on the 29th. You should have gotten a flyer about it. We'll send it back out again. I know you guys get inundated with stuff, so we'll send it back out again. But that way you can find a little bit more about that curriculum. Want to highlight some things coming next year, some services that we're either continuing or some new ones. Our SOS team is really taking a heavy look at MTSS. As you know, MTSS was written into the 11 district plan, so we know some things are coming out from the state. Not out yet, but we're trying to get ahead of some of that work. It also impacts everything we do. Without a strong MTSS system, it creates, I think, some real challenges for special education, because folks don't know where to get assistance for kids, so they fight hard for kids to be identified, when really it may be we just design a strong system. Plus, it gives us the data we need when we do make identifications. The other one is behavior supports. We continue to add BCBAs to our SOS team. We have some folks that are fully embedded in districts, or we have some folks that could come in, part-time if you need somebody 2 days a week. We also can help you if you have some cases where you need another lens looking at that case, either just because of what's going on in your district. So we're continuing to add. We also will provide some PBIS behavior supports. I know that those of you who used Bryant, he does some things around de-escalation. I will tell you the new term he's using is engagement, which I love. I'm like, that's so much better than calling it de-escalation, but how do we engage with students so that we don't send them up? The other one, we are new. We've really had it, but haven't been able to use it the way we wanted to, so we're going to strengthen it for next year, but it's instructional coaching. We have somebody doing some part-time coaching. Thank you, Angie, for sending her our way. She's been amazing, works really well with your teachers who have complex kids and just need somebody in there to help do some instructional coaching. We're also going to expand that to really do a little more coaching around STAC or students with autism. We do a fabulous training in the summer, but then we send folks off and we don't really have a way of supporting. So we're going to add that to our instructional coaching, that model. We also have somebody that does family engagement. So if you're rolling out any initiative and you're really wanting to look at how do I engage families in that initiative, we have somebody, and she's under a grant, so that's free of charge for you, but Andrea Summers can help you with that. We are expanding Ventures too, and I need to think of a good name. So right now, I'm going to say a name I don't like. But it's really the profile of the student. It's designed for a student who has some significant behaviors and may need an alternative placement, but also has lower cognition. Right now, the way we've designed Ventures, it really is designed for kind of the student that's kind of on that average range. They may be behind, but average range because we use an online curriculum, which many of you, I think, probably are aware. So we're expanding to serve that student. It will be down at the Ventures that's down south of Bexley. So just going to keep you abreast. By the way, we are looking for a teacher, so if you got somebody good that you're willing to share, we might even give you a seat for that. We can negotiate, but that's what we're looking to do, to share that. And if you come up with a good name for the classroom, let me know, because I need to come up with a name better than the way I describe it. Last one is chronic absenteeism. For those of you that haven't met Rob Gonda, he is leading our work around chronic absenteeism. We are setting up a network next year because we feel like districts need to have a chance to talk about it. But we also are wanting to really engage in how do we provide service. So please we'll keep you posted on it, but connect us to the right person. Sometimes that's not you, it's somebody else in the district, but help us get connected. So I think that's it. I think those are my highlights. Oh, wait, I'm going to speak for Lynn. I know you talked about people. We are looking for teachers related service to anybody. I feel like we're all going after the same pool, but the same thing everybody is. We're really trying to wrap our head around how do we find folks. So if you have extras, send them our way, okay? Okay.
Anyone have any questions? Anything in?
Cindy, with the links you put in there, we don't have the PowerPoint yet. Will you guys pop that into the folder?
Are you popping that into the folder? Yeah, I guess so. Sorry, I thought you did. Yeah, yep. We will put that in the folder. Yeah, because otherwise links are not helping you.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Also, Cindy, thank you to your team for the breakfast and refreshments this morning. We appreciate that.
For those of you that are online, you'll have to just imagine.
The lobster and steak.
Yeah.
The virtual breakfast. Right.
Okay, so Cindy gets to talk about all the fun, great, exciting things, and I am tasked with talking about the not so always fun, great special ed profile updates and reminders. If you need SST involvement in the process, which means you had an area of noncompliance, please make sure that you are using the SST. ODE requires SST involvement. What that looks like is kind of determined on the support level that you feel in district you need. It can be on site for the discussions, facilitating the discussions, or it could just be, a quick Zoom virtual catch up. Hey, this is what we were thinking. Do you have feedback? What should we change? What should we add? Things like that. If you are a community school, your sponsor must also be involved. That is a big one that we ask to make sure is taken care of on the signature spot, but also stress the importance of them being involved in that planning and oversight of implementing your improvement plan and action steps around that. Disproportionality findings, this is new, this part, that the treasurer must be involved in the process to the point where they have to sign the document as well. In the past, it was encouraged they were involved just because of the 15% redirection of funds towards early intervening services, but now they are required signature on that improvement plan. We always encourage you, I know it's coming down to the deadline here at the end of March, but if you can submit to us and complete the self-review summary report first, we encourage that before you move on to the improvement plan, just to get the feedback so you can keep things flowing and don't have to go back and fix 2 documents when we can avoid that. And for any activity listed in the improvement plan, you will be required to submit documentation for the systemic correction part of the process. Keep that in mind. If you put that you're gonna provide a training on EMIS code entry and you are required to provide an attendance sheet, slides, some sort of evidence that shows that you in fact did that. We don't want you to get into a situation where you're up against the deadline and now you're trying to scramble to get those things together. Also, on the self-review summary report, at a minimum, you have to identify one area of need that the district has, a priority area. And with that, you also have to go into that root cause piece. With the root cause, just really try it. You know, there's so many things that are out of our control that we deal with in schools and education. The root cause, the real purpose of that and the intentionality behind that with the department is that you are really getting down to what you can control in the district. So, you know, graduation and dropout, a root cause that we would not typically like to see, you know, our kids don't come to school, or parents don't care to send the kids so they don't come to school, or things like that, things you can't control. So what you would really want to talk about is, you know, alternative pathways that you have for students, support systems that you've built in or that you are looking to build in around that. The chronic absenteeism piece is something also, but OD has been very specific in their direction towards us that that root cause piece needs to be an adult action by somebody in the district that can lead to improved outcomes. I know it's tough with that root cause. So if you need help getting down to that root cause, sometimes districts have given us feedback that it helps to have an SST person look at the data and then just start asking questions, because we're kind of outside, but we're know enough to be involved in the conversation, so we can kind of get those conversations going around root cause. If you do need a little bit of assistance there, that is no problem. Indicator 14, this is new this year. The student data collection template is on ODE's website, and the follow-up collection FAQ document. Those are 2 documents that I direct people towards. We'll have Aaron's going to talk from Delaware is going to talk a little bit about what they're doing in their district around Indicator 14 a little bit. We just wanted to make sure that you had access to these links, as well as understanding that this has changed this year. Everybody is now required to collect this information from graduates. In the past, it was on, I believe, a 3-year cycle cohort, but now it's everybody every year. So this is not new to what people are necessarily doing, but it's just now something that needs to be addressed frequently. Here's your critical due dates for the profile. Around the profile, we are, you know, currently going into this self-review summary report and improvement plan. This does go into the monitoring system through your OHID. If you need help with that, or if you're not seeing that on your side, sometimes that's an internal permissions thing. So check with whoever controls your permissions through the OHID account for the apps. And that goes into the monitoring system. And then a couple more dates coming up. May 12th is a student record submission form, record items for individual correction. If you had non-compliant non-compliant records, so if you submitted records, they were non-compliant, you have until May to fix those. They do give you a couple months just because there might be an instance where an ETR needs to be revisited, revised, redone, things like that. And then September is going to be the stuff around your systemic completion of improvement plan activities and things of that nature. Any questions around profiles? Anybody online? Question about profiles? Okay. The second part of the profiles, the performance indicator part. So the first part is the compliance rollout. That's going to be everything that has a required action. The second part of the performance indicators are going to come out hopefully around April, May is our hope. There's no required action around those unless it's something super, super egregious. We have not run into that in my time dealing with profiles in this region, so don't stress about that. But yeah, you won't have any corrective action necessarily to do around that. Next piece, alternate assessment, justification, and insurances is our disclaimer here. Every Student Succeed Act requires each student in community school to complete and submit a justification when it anticipates testing more than 1% of those students. So if you anticipate testing more than 1% of those students, The school must complete a justification form saying, yes, we anticipate testing more than 1%. There's, I think, a little bit of a section that asks you to put in your numbers so you can kind of have it and see it and work through it of that nature. If you do not anticipate testing more than 1%, then you still have to submit the assurance form to ODE saying, basically acknowledging that you've looked at your numbers and you don't anticipate going over 1%. The template to the justification form is linked here. If you didn't get the direct link from your superintendent, then you can go through here and then you would just submit it to that mailbox. Some districts are running into spam problems with the email. Some districts are saying that their superintendent never got it because their OEDS in the district is not updated or that superintendent has left, whatever it might be. So internally, if you have not gotten this email, reach out to the AA participation and they can resend the direct link with that's special to your district that way. I believe that was sent back in February. Did you guys got that? Okay. Good news, I think, for most people, based on conversations I've had, the revised operating standards are set for July release. Per ODE at OAPSA, that was confirmed. I know everybody had speculated, but that is confirmed. What we're doing internally, just a little bit about what we're doing internally at the SST, we're working with Bricker and Eckler currently, actually, on redesigning that Acela series to really incorporate the new information, the changes. They're not just going to go through, but they're going to make an effort to highlight where the change was, what it used to be, what it is now, kind of like a side-by-side crosswalk. We are working on that as soon as the documents are, ODE is able to get those documents to them for us to kind of plan that out. We should have more of an idea, but it's still going to keep the same six-part series, one per month once the school year gets started. I think our first one's in September, right? First one's in September. So by late spring, all that stuff will be posted. So you guys hopefully can see and plan those out. In the past, the cell has been kind of designed. We have a lot of veteran administrators that come by, but in the past, it's been designed kind of for newer administrators. But this is, we encourage everybody and anybody who deals with the operating standards to come on board for this, because we're pretty confident getting it from Bricker and Eckler is going to be the easiest way, the best way for us to roll it out as far as effectiveness. Bricker and Eckler is sitting at the table with ODE and advisory councils and boards and things like that. So they're in on those conversations. They can kind of give a perspective that we are unable to.
Greg, will that be recorded as well to be able to fill it out? Yeah.
Yeah, Acela is always recorded.
Okay.
If you go on our website, you can see the ones from this year. If you go on our website, scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a YouTube, like circular YouTube logo. Click that, takes you right to our YouTube page. And it's kind of weird, you have to scroll like to the right or the left, depending on how you look at it, or if you have a MacBook. But if you click the little scroll over arrow, you'll see all the ones that are in our library. So the ones from this year, yes, are in there. The Ohio Coalition is working on the new parents' rights document, where the release will coincide with the operating standards. Aaron and Kim and myself participated in a feedback session with the Ohio Coalition around this document. We looked at it. If you guys have more feedback, please send it to us, and we can definitely send it on to them about what you like about that document, what you don't like, what's ineffective, what's some of the feedback we're getting is that there's too much left up for interpretation, which just brings about more questions, which now you're backtracking, now you're answering questions. I kind of feel that way as well myself. So that was kind of some of the feedback we gave them, is like, stick to the facts, stick strictly to the law, what the policy is, and things like that. So they're working on that document to reflect the new operating standards. So that will be rolling out with the operating standards. And like I said, looking ahead, we can confirm Acela will reflect the new changes. Details and dates around that is to be determined. And that concludes the state support team part of the updates today. Does anybody have any questions around that? I know it was a kind of a quick run through there. All right, we will move into now, Angie and Aaron from Delaware are gonna talk. I think Angie's promoted Aaron to head talker today.
Yeah, correct.
So
It started out as an invite.
So Aaron Cook is the Director of Secondary Curriculum and Assessment. He is going to give just a little bit of district level insight and perspective into Indicator 14 and what they are doing in their district. I know it's looking very different across the districts due to the ability you have to create that document yourself if you choose to do so. There's also a template that ODE has available, which we put in the slides that'll be available after the session today. So Aaron, if you want to come up here, so that way people can see and get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen? That way,
Is there
those
a,
online can see Aaron.
I will move out of your way. And you, kind of like within those two tables.
these two tables?
Yeah,
All right.
as far as that goes, other than that, you're good to.
Hello, everyone, virtual people. I'm Aaron Cook. Angie and Kurt at first invited me like she was going to be presenting and I would just be the sidekick to add in language, and now I'm up here by myself. So great. So at the beginning of this year, as most of you know, we had to start collecting postgraduate information for all students in Delaware. We've tried to do that for many years, but now it's a bit more extensive. I will share the survey with the ESC so that if they want to share that back out with the group afterwards. So we send it out in the fall through email, and at the end of every year as a part of senior checkout, we try to get students' personal emails since their school email will be locked out after graduation. And so we started a September-October push through email to our students. At winter break, we did another push through email and social media channels to try to get students to fill that out. And we really use, what was that document called, Angie? I know we have the Indicator 14, but we also have the state guidance as well for all kids. So they had some very specific information they wanted. We just crafted that into a Google survey, a Google form, and it's basically like some general information, and then it jumps you based upon, are you in a 4-year college, a 2-year college, a tech school, workforce, service learning. If you're in multiple, you can fill out multiple. We did make some tweaks recently because we started that Google form just under the guise of not Indicator 14, just getting information from graduates. We've since gone back to put that information in there. We will do another push in May at the end of the year for when, for at least our college and 2-year students, they're starting to come back home. We're gonna get that out on social media where our parents will see it, do another email push. And then we're gonna do some targeted phone calls as well. So right now, 2/3 of the way through the year, almost 3/4, we have about 25% return rate at this point. Angie thinks that's good, good compared to what she's used to getting for Indicator 14. I think we can do better. I heard walking in this morning, the state's gonna expect us in the near future to get 100% participation. I think that's gonna be a challenge to do. But we are certainly gonna give it our best effort to get more information. So what is it I'm leaving off or that you wanna know?
I just have a question. Are you collaborating at all with your like high school principals in regards to the same survey going out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
So
you're separate?
this started out
And the
with
CTE people,
our college.
the early days.
Yeah, our college and career readiness counselor at the high school and our high school principals, so Jen Pollard and Dr. Stranges. And in the past, we've always sent out a less formal survey for our seniors to get back that information. So we just started kind of adding to that and made it a more robust form. So they aren't getting it from me or Angie at this point, they're getting it from the high school team. And then working with our district communications officer in May, they have pushed it out through building socials, but we will try to do a district kind of push through Facebook and district Twitter.
Social media.
I think the other tweak we want to make that I wrote down, especially knowing indicator 14 and some of our students with significant disabilities, and that they're still living with their parents, doing something more like the search program at Grady in Delaware. Project Search, where if we can make sure we have parents' updated email addresses at the end of the year so that we can send targeted emails to parents of students that we know are going to need more support from their parents to fill this out, or the parents will be filling it out on behalf of their students, is another tweak that we are going to make at the collection this year for our seniors exiting, because we find a lot of times, just like phone numbers in your student information system, emails change regularly, and what we think we have is accurate isn't. So if we can get something in May from our parents on an accurate personal email address, not of the student, but of the parent as well, will help us be successful.
I think key information to know regarding students with disabilities is we have a full year from time of graduation to collect their information or to get updated information from them. Kind of like Erin shared, the state did say they are wanting 100% response back from students with disabilities. If you're familiar with the Ohio Longitudinal Transition Survey, we just needed one response back and we met our requirement. So not quite sure how that's going to look yet, but she did share, Amy Szymanski shared, your EMIS coordinator should be getting updates of students that you have not received feedback for. So as you're getting those updates, if you're seeing people aren't responding, she's recommending continue, like Erin said, continue sending out your forms to them or calling them, whatever you need to do to try to get those responses. That way you get as close to that 100% as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But you have until, is it August? To collect the surveys back? Yeah, I think it is August 4th, so.
And in June, when we still have our high school administrative assistants in the high school through like the third week of June, third week of June, that's gonna be a push we make then with phone calls, and that we're gonna coach up our administrative assistants on why we're getting this information, and basically they will start off with asking the parents, is it okay that I fill this out for you as I ask these questions, so that we get the information that way.
It'd be important to keep documentation of all of the different ways you've attempted to get participation, because they led us to believe there might be some component to that. When you get the kids who don't respond for whatever reason, did you try, kind of like your IEP participation, right? You need multiple attempts and multiple different formats. So think about that, just documenting what all you're doing.
In Delaware, as I'm sure other districts, we have transient populations that move in and out of our district, and the same is going to continue to happen after they graduate. We have families in our community that want to give us as little information as possible about what they're doing, et cetera. They don't want a public entity having all that information. So we're all up against that as well. So we're of the mindset in Delaware, we're going to put it out in multiple different modalities. We're going to try it multiple times and be intentional about it. But we're at this point not getting really stressing ourselves out with that we have to get 100%. We're just going to try to get better each year with our collection rate.
Have you determined some of the we love the word root causes around why the response rate is what it is? I know that you mentioned transient populations. I know that you mentioned, okay, we'll try to update parent emails and target it towards them, especially if they are more hands-on with the care. Are there other areas or reasons or rationale why? Because then perhaps you can develop some strategies around those.
The next one is you asked that question. Rewind 5 years ago, we didn't have a large EL population, and now our high school is, our EL population mostly used to be at our elementary level, and they would exit out. Not that the families still aren't EL.
Yeah.
But how do we get this in some of our Spanish, Arabic, Somali, some of our most prevalent languages as well? We haven't taken that step and we need to.
And perhaps like determining how those various populations operate, right? So your Somali population, is it, sending somebody to a tea house or something like that with your, Nepalis? Like, I'm just thinking about the different things as we get to interface with a lot of different multilingual families. And sometimes, like you said, like a public entity trying to get that information, there might be the lack of trust. And what do you need this for? Versus if it's a community person that's embedded in there and it's like, we know the language, the customs and the habits, you might get a lot more feedback or response from that. So how are we changing the ways in which we interface with these populations?
What's your name?
Hi, go to your core, director. But no, like, I'm just thinking about the family engagement piece that you talked about, right? So as our population is shifting, what are we doing? Because changing it and putting it in the language is not a sufficient tool,
Right.
even though that is a great start. So that's just my
Thank
2
you.
cents.
And Erin, I think you had said too that you've updated the form to make sure that you're meeting those indicator 14.
Yeah.
So I just want to stress that as well to those online and to the rest of you here. If you did send out those questionnaires or surveys, whatever, and you were only looking at just graduation in general, there are certain questions that must be answered for that indicator 14. So make sure that you are updating that.
We just pulled directly from the form.
Yes.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, that was a question I had. You guys just, at minimum, used the questions from the template, but did you add anything that you felt was
I can read through.
crucial?
I did not know, like, I don't have the template memorized off my head.
Why not?
What's going on?
See, I have secondary.
It all started with the invite.
assessment, like, I can keep going.
All of it should be memorized.
Welcome to the world of special ed.
Telling me what to do. My place.
Love it.
So we just kind of ask an open, kind of what best describes their status currently and what they're up to, try to, if they want to give us a little more information than the basics in the opening piece. And then the military enlistments there, the apprenticeship program, we tried to get a little more information on what that apprenticeship program looks like, sounds like, feels like, in addition to kind of what field of apprenticeship and what's the employer of the apprenticeship program. Same thing on the technical school part, the 2-year school part. So in each of those sections, there's kind of that open-ended, like, can we get a little more information on what that looks like, sounds like, feels like. Workforce, this is an update we made after it was pretty generic in that just list your employer and field. I went ahead and changed that to exactly what's on the form, agriculture and environmental systems, like, versus leaving it up to a student to plug in something and then our EMIS coordinator has to, like, okay, where does that fall?
Right.
We do have an other in case they're not sure where their field of work falls. Long-term plan for advancement, 90 days, that's all required. The hours of work. So some of the pieces with indicator 14 that we add is kind of those integrated employment pieces. Those weren't there before when it was just the more general. I can't remember if gap year was one of the options on the original form. We have gap year on ours. Is it? Okay. Undecided, other, and we originally didn't have service learning on there as an option, like Peace Corps, AmeriCorps type responsibility, but I believe that was on the form. We just didn't have it in our survey.
Erin, did you say that you will be willing to share this form with us so that way we can post it on our, perfect.
Yep, I'll share it with Cindy so that she can get it to wherever it needs to go. Copy, paste it, steal it, just put your school district name in there, not ours. All All right, that's all I got.
All right. Is there
Angie, anything to add?
Andrew, you did a great presentation.
Yes, thank you to Aaron and Angie for finding us here.
Angie, for finding us there.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. And I'm very thankful that you were willing to share that with us, that we can share it with our districts too. So right now, we're a little bit ahead, which is fine, but we have a built-in break. After you return from break, Pitty Jennings, the infant and early childhood mental health consultant from Nationwide Children's Hospital, she's here. She will be joining us to talk around early childhood mental health and behavior. We seem to be getting a lot of questions about that, people asking about resources. I think it's unprecedented times, at least in our lifetime, with the COVID and things like that shut things down. I mean, I have a 3 and a 4-year-old who learn or are at very different stages developmentally because of that. I like to think I do a good job supporting them in their growth and physical, social, emotional growth, but we're seeing it at our house with our son right now. I mean, he's like almost a year behind in some stuff socially, just because he hasn't been exposed to it. So I think if you multiply that across a classroom of 16 kids in a district of 8,000, 10,000 kids. And so I think the long-term implications of that are immeasurable at this point. But we have a great partnership this year with Nationwide and having Pitty available to us to help support you guys. So we're excited to have her here. She's a wealth of knowledge, and the limited conversations I've had around these things, just trying to pick her brain so we can help support you. So we're excited about hearing from her. But for now, we'll take a little break here so we can transition her materials probably till about 10:15. So about a 12-minute break here. And we will get Pitty situated and logged on, and we will get going on that conversation. Anybody have any questions on the first part today? Anything in the chat box? Nope. All right, so a little 12-minute break here. If everybody can kind of come back at 10:15, when we will get going with Pitty's presentation.
Bills, we're here, take a break, eat some of the lobster and the steak that we have, the truffle.
All right, sorry about that, I forgot to hit record. So we are back. Thank you for coming back with us. Pitty Jennings, again, is an infant and early childhood mental health consultant from Nationwide Children's Hospital. Pitty, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your partnership with the state support team. I am not really in that area of work right now, so to understand that, help everybody understand that better and make that connection. But thank you again to Pitty for being here. This is, like I said, we're getting a lot of questions, concerns. People are reaching out about resources, and Aaron and Kim had the great suggestion to have Pitty speak to the group today. She's got a plethora of resources for you. We also have a new resource on our website. On the scrolling tiles, you can find a new resource that she was working on with our internal team here. It has a lot of great stuff in it, also translated in different language, in Spanish. So we're excited about that too. So I will turn the floor over to Pitty. Thank you again. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Aaron will make sure that they get relayed here in person.
Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure to see all of you. As Steve said, I'm an early childhood mental health consultant out of Nationwide Children's Hospital, now working as a consultant with the SST 11 team. There is now a mental health consultant working with every SST team in the state. This is a project, kind of a combination of ODE and Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services, and funded by Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services. So I came today to talk about some concerns you might have or things you might be dealing with, otherwise known as behaviors in young children, right? And so I think what, oops, see, is this?
Yeah.
My thing is not clicking. Do I need to be in a certain place to make that go forward?
Now try.
Okay, there you go, thank you. So I think some of this is anecdotal and some of this has really been, recorded on as data, that we're seeing an observed increase in the occurrence of children's behaviors and the frequency of behaviors in some specific children. We're also seeing an increase in the intensity of behaviors. Maybe kids are a little more disruptive or more physically aggressive with others, right? Or destroying property more. And then, I guess kind of sadly, we're also seeing these kind of intense behaviors and frequent behaviors occurring in younger children, right? So I just want to emphasize you are not alone. And I think you probably are aware of this, that this is across the United States. We're seeing this. I don't have, too much information on situations outside of the United States. But right now, really when I was thinking about coming today, I thought, let me look up some great data and get some real information for you. And that doesn't really exist quite yet. So some of this is just polling and anecdotal, but the National Center for Education Statistics did poll about 846 schools, and this is what they came up with, right? 87% of schools saying, yeah, COVID really affected kids' social emotional development, and 84% really affected students' behavioral development. Yale is always likes to get in there and do their research and, and participate in all of these things. And again, they are verifying that we don't have enough solid data yet. We don't know what the long-term impacts really are. It's too soon to tell that, right? But they're saying a quarter of kids presenting with symptoms of depression and a fifth of kids presenting with symptoms of anxiety. When they say kids, they're talking about wee little ones all the way up to age 18, not just our younger ones. When I was reading, looking some things up, I did come across some interesting articles. And there was this one example that I wanted to share from a school superintendent in Tennessee who said, 21, 22 school year, he's in the cafeteria watching a teacher bring in a group of second graders to have lunch. And he said the kids were actually crying, some of them. They were so scared and so nervous and so stressed about this idea of coming in to eat lunch in this room with all of these other people, right? And then, of course, not knowing what to do as far as, what's the procedure in the cafeteria. And he added on to that because of, schools being closed down and then parents opting for to continue with virtual education, he had second graders coming in who had never been in a school building before. That's pretty remarkable if we think about it, right? Especially based on what we've been accustomed to. We've been getting younger and younger, right? As far as the kids coming into schools. But right now we're seeing kids that, I'm 4 and I've never been in a building before. I'm 6 and I've never been in a school building before. So then kids may be 7 years old. So that's kind of remarkable from, what we've been accustomed to. So again, kids returning, we left, we came back. We're bouncing back and forth for little kids. And so, kids are having to respond to these changes, but this will be a recurring theme for me. They have to respond to the stress of adults, right? This is a huge factor. And so kind of putting us in the position we are right now that they're having difficulty with their social emotional not just regulation, but social emotional awareness and interactions, and dealing with social routines. So you can't see it up here, but it says pandemic and post-pandemic up there. I don't know if are we allowed to call things post-pandemic now? I'm never quite sure. I don't know where we are, quasi-pandemic. But again, I started to make a list of kind of some of the stressors, factors, causes for the behaviors we might be seeing as a result of the pandemic and the return from the pandemic, right? And my list was getting so long. I thought, this is a PowerPoint. I can't put all these bullet points on a PowerPoint, right? And so I still left a really long list here. But starting off with isolation and limited social interactions, right? With their peers, but also with adults who are outside of their own home. And so that kind of is a real shift now. Now I've got to come back or come into an environment where I'm really interacting and in the care of adults, and I'm not accustomed to that. It's always in my own home, right? Changes in routine. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys this, right? The lack of consistent routine, inconsistent school attendance, right? So everybody go home. Everybody come back. Oh, wait, you've been exposed, go back home. So it's this volleying back and forth. The heavy use of electronics, right? So this has been a concern for all of us for a bit, right? And then we get into COVID and it's kind of, we're encouraging the use of electronics. Oh, get on the computer and do preschool, do kindergarten, do your schoolwork. Hey, mommy's busy. Get on your little iPad, get on your phone, right? So we kind of like switched courses or switched approaches to kids when it comes to electronics. And now that's a hard thing to break, right? That habit. So even when we got back together, for a while there were restrictions on the type of interactions you were allowed to have with others, the type of physical interactions you were allowed to have with others, right? Now, particularly with little kids, we're all over each other, right? We sit on each other, climb all over each other, we roughhouse, right? And now we're putting a restriction on that. That greatly affects people, even old people like me, right? That greatly affects us. Everyone needs physical contact. Everyone needs to be touched. Our little ones express a great deal physically and through physical interaction. And we kind of, put a limit on that, which is going to affect us in a sensory level, right? But also in a social emotional level. Masks, who knows? Is there a lasting effect, right? We don't know. We don't know. And how much did that affect communication skills, right? Speech development? How much did that affect people being able to read nonverbal cues? I don't think we know that yet. And then stressed adults. And this is, again, I keep coming back here because this is the big one. You're at home and your parents are working from home and maybe you're 4, maybe you're 6, maybe you're 10 or 12. Your mom's in another room on the computer doing work, and you are not allowed to have access to her. What does that do to your little head? We know that when we're all egocentric, but we know the younger we are, the more egocentric we are. That's just how our little brains work, right? So it's me. It's not COVID, it's not mom, it's not job, it's me. That's what we're internalizing, right? And so this kind of preoccupation that adults had, but the stressors that adults have as well, like you could be champion mom of the year, but it's real difficult, or dad, real difficult to kind of, maintain this wonderful, oh yes, honey, anything you want, let me help you kind of stance while you're on a conference call, that's do or die for your job. So stressed adults in home and then also in school settings once we return. Trauma. So we know trauma is, kind of the popular thing now in a way, which is sad to say. But we know the effects of trauma. We know that trauma was existing, or usually everybody has some kind of traumatic experience at one point in their life, right? We know some kids really have this recurring trauma, living in environments where it kind of never lets up, right? We know that has always been the case. But now we have COVID added on top of that, where we can have real grief and loss. Is it, I can't remember how many kids in Franklin County alone lost somebody to COVID, and I think it's 170,000 or something like that. So grief, loss, and then those other kind of things that were already in place. Hunger, right? Neglect, abuse, parents who are not capable at this point of providing what the kids need, and now the kids are there all the time, right? And then there's societal things. We had COVID going on, and then we had some very big societal issues come into play, right? Societal upset, I'm gonna say on the whole, some societal unrest as a result of some very explicit, overt, examples of not just racism, but real violence included with that racism. And kids are not immune to this, and some kids are living in communities where this is occurring very frequently. It's not just what we read on the news or experienced in 21. So again, returning to the group settings with a whole different, kids are coming in like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna play on my iPad all day, right? I have this whole different set of expectations now, or I've never been here before, so I have no real clear expectations. Yes, please.
We also had a lot of kids come in with obsessive compulsive disorder. Like, we now have to sanitize 15,000 times when we're in a group setting, and can't touch anything and can't share pens, and so joint group settings.
That's such a wonderful point that you're sharing. Yeah, absolutely. So we might have seen that in some of our kids with special considerations or sensory needs or that kind of thing before. Now,
group setting, and
It's eked into a little bit more of the general population, right? Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. We're joining groups with that limited experience. And two, we're coming into environments where maybe, where no one's to blame, but maybe the expectations are too high, right? Because I'm an administrator, I'm a parent, I'm a teacher, and I'm coming in and I want things to go back to status quo, right? I want things to be as they were. And so those are basically my expectations. And all of a sudden, as an adult, I'm being hit with, whoa, this is not happening, right? And the child is picking up on that. Again, picking up on my stress, right? And perhaps my approach that is not quite realistic for the moment as it is. And then sadly, we've always had high teacher turnover, right? I mean, this is not a brand new thing, but boy, did it really magnify, right? So high teacher turnover, maybe not teacher turnover, maybe our assistant teachers or our instructional assistants, right? High turnover in that group of employees. And I'm going to say too, it's always been the case, but even more so now, this really high turnover in our community services, right? So our child care centers, our daycares, our private centers, very, very high turnover there. So you have kids who are coming to your program, and maybe the other half of the day, if they're little kids, they're going to this daycare center, right? Maybe it's even school-age kids, and they're going for wraparound care someplace, right? But there's always high turnover there. That's going to influence my behavior over time. And then just kind of inconsistent sleep habits. Boy, I'm on a whole different routine now. Like, we just get up whenever and fall asleep on the couch whenever because we don't have anywhere to go. And then the sensory needs not being met, right? Sensory needs in terms of human contact, sensory needs in terms of getting outside to play, right? A whole host of those. So that was pandemic and kind of, if I'm allowed to say it, post-pandemic. But what about pre-pandemic? A lot of the same things. A lot of these same things already existed, but they didn't exist maybe for everybody. Right? They existed for a smaller portion of the population, perhaps. Maybe they existed for a lot of kids, but not on such a prolonged, persistent, intense level. When we talk about toxic stress, I'm sure you've all heard this term. Some of the qualifiers are that it's persistent, it's intense, it's prolonged, and then in some cases, it's dramatic, right? Like a death or something to that effect, or an accident. So these things already existed for a number of our children. Those were our kids who maybe were a little more fragile, right? We saw that they had less ability or capability in the moment to respond to things in what we would consider an appropriate way socially and emotionally, right? They had difficulty creating those social connections in a way that we saw as appropriate. That always existed. It was just a smaller portion of the population. Now, that was the fragile people. Now, our group of fragile people has gotten bigger. And so I mention a lot of this, not because I think you don't know it, but just to kind of frame the way we're thinking about things, right? That these behaviors are signs of people who are in a fragile state, right? This is a call for help. Or this is an announcement that, hey, I can tell you what I'm supposed to do in this situation, but truly, I don't have a clue what to do, right? Because if I did, I'd do it. I don't have that skill that I can really call up and use. That's where all of you come in, all the teachers and you come in. So what are these side effects? Again, for adults, stress, loss of confidence. You know what? I'm not good at this job. Right? I never should have chosen this, right? Frustration with the behaviors, the lack of progress. I came in here to teach. I didn't come in here to be a police officer, right? The demands are still put on you. When I listen to the number of forms and procedures you guys have to go to, I am blown away, right? I don't know how anybody does it sometimes. And is my voice being heard, right? I keep saying we have a problem. Who's coming in to help us? And just sadly, but because we are human beings, sometimes this stress lends us to react with more punitive measures, perhaps even imparting information or using approaches that are even less realistic than they were before. And that is not because we are horrible people. That does not have anything to do with us being failed professionals. It means we are human beings, and human beings can only deal with so much. We try to be adaptable, right? But we love routine, right? And so all of this has really thrown us a loop, right? We can have this feeling of hopelessness. Is this it, right? This is never going to get any better. This has been going on for how many months now? Then we might see some actual, absenteeism with teachers, again, and then that attrition, right? So this is how teachers, administrators, or adults are affected. This is how kids are affected. Same things, right? Stress, lack of confidence. Oh, I suck at school. I shouldn't be here. I can't do this. Frustration. I'm always getting corrected. Nobody likes me here, right? I can't do anything right here. Now, again, our little ones aren't sophisticated enough to have that inner conversation, but you're going to see those feelings come out. How? Big emotions, physically, right? So the kids are resorting to those disruptive behaviors or unsafe behaviors, or maybe they're just shutting down and tuning out. This can have a negative impact on their physical health as well as adult physical health, that sense of hopelessness, right? And then we might be seeing more absenteeism. If I am, especially for younger kids, if I'm in pre-K, and there's not a law for how many days I have to show up, right? And I throw a fit every morning, and it is so beautiful. My parents might just be kind of like, whatever, I give up, just stay home. I don't care. You know what I mean? If they don't have to go to work or something to that effect. But then we have our kids who attend, and their lack of participation or their lack of cooperative participation is almost like not being there, right? The poor peer relationships, and we know that there is, I'm sure you all have heard of this, there's the pre-K to prison pipeline. I'm sure you may have heard of that, right? That's when kids are getting kicked out of K programs and that kind of thing all the time. But are we starting on a path to failure? Gosh, I hate school. I'm going to hate it today, and I'm going to hate it next year, and this can go on and on. So is this the new normal? Let's hope not, right? So what are we going to do about it? I think that what we want to do is access our resources, external resources, community resources, and our internal resources. Because you know what? What else can we do, right? It's kind of, we can opt to sit in the stew and just remain there and kind of say, hey, it shouldn't be. I don't want this to happen. We can stay there for a long time, right? Or we can opt to leave, right? Or we can say, hey, this is doable. I'm an educator, I'm an administrator, I'm a concerned citizen, I'm a kind adult, and we can kind of say, like, how can we tap into some resources? So I think a lot of you might be familiar with the Ohio Preschool Expulsion Prevention Partnership. Long name, right? We call it OPEP instead. And I just wanted to clarify some things about this. You should have this, I think Steve probably forwarded this to you in handouts, or he will. But first of all, anyone can call this number, right? A parent, teacher, administrator, childcare directors, assistant teachers, anybody can call this number when they have concerns about a child's behavior in their program. These services are offered in every county in the state, and they are free. They are also funded by Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services. In the state of Ohio, Children's Hospital manages this program, but we do not serve every county in the state. We do, however, serve every county under SST 11. I wanted to clarify a couple things. It says preschool expulsion, and that's a little misleading. In our world, early childhood is 0 up to the age of 8, right? So we can come into a classroom or a program for children who are older than pre-K. It also says expulsion prevention, and I recognize if you're in a public program, that is not an option for you, which I don't know how you feel, but I'm really happy about that. But the idea behind this came about because there were this is alarming number of expulsions in pre-K programs throughout the country, like something like 3 times more pre-K expulsions than kindergarten through 12th grade combined in any given year. So that's all that's saying is that people are frustrated and they're giving up and they don't know what to do, right? Nobody wants to be doing that. They just don't know what to do. So what we really encourage, I shouldn't say we, but what this program really encourages is that anyone who wants to call calls, but call before you are at the end of your tether. Call before you're saying, oh my gosh, this kid's gonna have to move into, a more restrictive environment, right? So when you first have questions, just aren't sure, have any kind of concerns, think you're observing something with behaviors and you could use a little help, definitely feel free to call then. Anybody, again, they can call the number or they can make a request on this link, and they can request more services for regarding more than one child at a time. I want to emphasize that if you get services that come out of Children's Hospital, we will not be coming to do any kind of one-on-one with the child. There's no diagnostic assessment here. There's no treatment or therapy. We are coming looking at this from a classroom and program perspective, right? Because we know little Billy comes in with behaviors today. Guess what? 6 weeks later, little Susie comes in with behaviors. And so the idea is to kind of build capacity and support teachers in looking at things that are part of their everyday world in that classroom or program environment. And how can we, what can we add to this? How can we tweak this to support this child with behaviors, but it's really supporting everybody in the room. There might be somebody in the room who's never speaking up and causing me problems, but I don't know what's going on inside, right? So I want to kind of institute or put into practice strategies, ideas, things in the physical environment that are going to support everybody in feeling that sense of community and safety. So that's the preschool expulsion partnership. I think a lot of you also probably know P, the Positive Parenting Program. Again, this program is offered for free in every county in the state of Ohio. Children's does oversee the management of this program. We, again, do not serve every county, and we also do not serve every county in SST 11, but we serve several. Anybody can email or call this number. That primarily would be parents calling, so you can share this information with parents, but we will also come out to, when we can, with enough notice, and if you have enough people to attend, a facilitator can come out to your school and provide the program right there at your school. The positive thing about this are the options, I think, right? So they have an option now where parents can just get on and do an asynchronous trainings themselves in their own time. There's no facilitator, it's just kind of a video kind of training. They have in-person, virtual, individual, group. They have trainings that are just one session, maybe you're just dealing with one specific topic like sleep routines, right? Or taking your kids out in public. But then they may also, they do also have extended training programs that maybe are, the longest one is like 5 weeks of kind of training with then 3 follow-up kind of usually virtual meetings with the facilitator to how are you doing? Kind of how much support do you need? Do you need another level of service, right? So this is another option for mainly your parents, but you know, we know what happens at home affects what happens in school, right?
Can I share something real quick? Mm-hmm. So at my previous district, we utilized both of those programs, the P as well as the preschool prevention program. The preschool prevention, we did that several years ago. And it was interesting because like Pitty said, it is not, in our mind, we had one student that we were gearing it towards because we were seeing some pretty extreme behaviors. And like Pitty said, they come in, they support the classroom environment. And then we were able to tie access with parents for that one particular student that we had in mind that the prevention program shared with us. So that was kind of a neat way to do it. For the P, this is a great way to add to your family engagement for Step Up to Quality services, how you have to rely on that. And what we did at my previous district is we worked with Centero, who came out and provided the classrooms in the evening for all of our families in the preschool program, and we opened it up to that age 8. So we did have a couple school age parents come in. We also provided daycare services for those evening classes, which was kind of nice for parents, especially for the little ones. And we accessed our high school students that needed volunteer hours. They were the ones who came in and did the babysitting service for us. But the great thing about that program as well, we did 4 sessions, there were 4 classes, and parents were then able to access private services outside of the school, which was amazing for them. So I am a huge proponent of both of those services, if you can get in touch with it.
Yeah, that's so good to hear, because, you know, we get a lot of the other kind of responses sometimes. I did want to throw out too, with Triple P, and OPEP, if the services do come out of children's, we always have an interpreter available. And with Triple P, we do have one facilitator who is Spanish speaking, so that is an automatic option. So again, just some other community education. This is through Children's. I'm not trying to push Children's Hospital, but because I work there, I'm kind of privy to some of their information. Again, just phone number and email. The trainings through children, the community education to children do change all of the time, just kind of based on what they see as need and their own availability. But they have the Autism Academy and the ADHD Academy for parents of children with autism or ADHD. And those trainings, they'll have like one training at a time, and it usually focuses on kind of like one aspect of behavior or one kind of situation. Some of them are fee-based. Usually the fee is about $10. If somebody really doesn't have that $10, I would say call anyway and say, I need help. Because our mission is to provide best services possible regardless of ability to pay. So you can hold us to the mission. And then some of them are free. So those are some community resources. I did create an early childhood mental health resources guide for each county in SST 11. So I kind of pulled that information primarily from the alcohol, drug, and mental health boards and the mental health and recovery boards. And most of these are agencies, right? Because I can't really include or endorse private practitioners. But I focused on early childhood mental health. But I will say, if an agency serves early childhood, chances are they serve older children and families as well. The reverse is not always true. Many agencies don't want to serve kids under, say, like 6 years old. So I really sought out those that would serve younger children. And then again, they'll take care of the older kids too. So on this guide, it's divided by county, obviously based on population and density of population. You're going to see more services in some counties than others. So it would just make sense that if you don't have a lot showing up in your county, that you refer to a neighboring county or to Franklin County, which is more densely populated, to find some services that might be a benefit for families. This is something that you could be posting, I don't know, on your own websites or in newsletters. I don't know how you communicate most effectively with parents, but to have something at the ready and make sure parents are aware that that's available. And then, of course, it might be a one-on-one situation if somebody is really seeking services. I did also include whether or not an agency accepts Medicaid, or if they just take private pay or private insurance. So hopefully this will be some use to you. And this is posted on the SST website as well. I somehow couldn't find it. I don't know, I must not have full access or something. Okay, so these are some community resources.
It's also in your participant folder.
Oh, there you go, okay. And so too, again, I realize I'm kind of like preaching to the choir here or whatever, but you have the trainings through SST 11, you can submit requests for trainings. If you're wanting other kinds of trainings that deal more with behavioral health or early childhood behavioral health, you can get onto that, the same link where you would request Ohio Preschool Expulsion Services. That same link offers an option for you to submit a training request. All the trainings would be Ohio approved or OKRA approved. And you've got OKRA for your people who need Ohio approved trainings and deal in the early childhood worlds. And then all these other services, these resources that I think most of you are aware of, right? CASEL, and do you all use DECA, like Devereaux Institute, the DECA assessments, anybody for early childhood? No. So Devereaux Institute for Resilient Children is pretty well known in the field, especially for young children, and they create the DECA assessment that a lot of programs use. Panorama, Edutopia, NACE, National Association of Education for Young Children. So the reason I threw these on here is sometimes we just kind of forget about it because we get busy. And these sites, many of them offer a lot of free resources. Some of them you got to pay, right? But a lot of them will offer, free articles, some of them kind of free webinars. And so it might be worth taking a look if you're looking under a specific topic related to behavioral health. Before I did this, Kim had mentioned, something about what are the social emotional curriculums? We talked about that for a minute or two. There are thousands of social emotional curriculums out there, so it'd be impossible for me to pull them all up, but also I would hesitate to endorse things that I don't know, right? But I would just say, you guys are all pretty much data-based people, right? So looking for something that is evidence-based, right? There are a lot of curriculums out there that are not evidence-based. They might say research-based, and I'm never sure quite what that research means, but evidence-based means, at least we know, right, that it's been put into practice and it's been proven to be beneficial. I did want to stress for administrators, teachers, or whomever, social emotional curriculums for any age can be wonderful, right? When they are utilized as an isolated kind of, here's the social emotional lesson. Today we're going to learn about sharing. Today we're going to learn about, making amends or whatever, depending on the age of the kids. There's nothing wrong with that, but you probably won't see a real significant impact on children's behaviors, right? And their adaptation to the school community when it's isolated that way. So I, in the past have done dinosaur school through incredible years, right? This is highly research-based, but teachers want you to come in and do this one day a week, right? Okay, great, it's fun, it's cute, you got some puppets, right? The kids seem to like it, they might even be able to regurgitate some things back to you, but what's the impact on their behavior? Like, I come back next week and talk about another topic, but what happened in the meantime? How is that embedded and worked into the thread of your daily routine? So we really need the teacher modeling everything that they are sharing through or teaching through these social emotional curriculums, and then working that language and those reminders into the incidental learning, right? The day-to-day practices. I want to distinguish too that I put the age ranges up here. I'm going to say all of these curriculums cost money, right? So that's another thing to think about. Is this the best, way to use our resources? So I have second step incredible years. Conscious discipline is on there. Conscious discipline is not a curriculum. And I think that's a little confusing for some people. It is absolutely positively not a curriculum. It is an approach. It is a foundation or a framework with which you develop your systems or your approaches to teaching children social emotional skills and supporting them in creating a school community. You got the does anybody use PAC's Good Behavior Game in your districts? Yeah. So that's usually for a little bit older kids, but they do have the PAC's tools, which eliminates the game basically, but uses some other elements of PAC's for the younger kids. I did put these up here because all of these are trauma informed, right? And a lot of social emotional curriculums are not, right? Then just down at the bottom there, sometimes we forget, especially for our little kids, Sesame Street or Sesame Street Community, tons of free resources, right? So, and especially for those specific topics like grief or incarcerated parents or parents who have substance misuse disorder, really kind of specific, really frank, honest ways that you can communicate with kids or families can communicate with their kids. And then, do you all use University of Vanderbilt CSEFL? I don't know if you're Center for Social Emotional Foundations and Early Learning. That's been around for a long time. Everything on there is free. If you want a training, they'll give you a free PowerPoint if they have it already created. Lots of visuals, social stories, that kind of thing. So these are some of our outside resources, right? But what about our internal resources? We might start, because we want information, so we might start kind of collecting all those external resources. And, again, we might need help, so we're going to extend to community resources. But what about within our own programs? What responses are we kind of currently using or thinking about developing, right? So, I couldn't resist putting this little quote in here because, this is my bias, right? It's just that, the schools that are the most successful are the ones that are focusing right now on recreating the school community or family or whatever you want to call it. The schools that are dead focused on just academic achievement are really struggling right now, right? Because we're not meeting people where they are. We're not dealing with reality, right? And so that is also setting our teachers up for stress, right? And a sense of failure. So we want to incorporate this thinking, I think. I don't know how you feel. I realize everybody still has all those demands for, you got to deliver, right? You got to have great scores, that kind of thing. But I think even slightly the state made some accommodations, right, during COVID. So what's our school culture? This does relate back. I don't know if all of you already have your PBIS stuff in place or if that's something that, you're working on, but this really relates to that tier 1 for your PBIS, right? What's our school culture, right? What are the expectations that are clearly and positively and simply stated for our older kids and very simply stated for our younger kids and inclusive of our younger kids? And are we using that team approach? I mean, we know data shows us that when everybody in the building feels that we are working together toward a common goal, and we are all participating in that, it not only builds the sense of efficacy, it really results quite literally in improved goals, right? And are we using parents as a resource, or do we consider parents another stone around our neck, right? Do we see them as a problem or a resource? And if somebody is a problem, are we providing them with resources to help them come along, right? The most important thing here is the connection, right? So what happens in almost any trauma, other than maybe, kind of a medical trauma or something, in every trauma, just about, the connection or the relationship is either frayed or broken. Almost every trauma, right? And so before we can build anything back, we got to build back the relationship, right? And so relationship can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but I'm talking about genuine connection and a true sense of safety, right? And by safety, I mean emotional safety, right? The true test of a relationship, in some respects, is what happens when things go south, right? So when everything's going great, like, I'm your BFF, right? And then when things take a turn, maybe not so much, right? My stressors influence how I respond to you, and that can really fray our relationship. And so I think COVID has really pushed a lot of us to the brink with that. And because we're so preoccupied with, boy, these behaviors that are kind of slamming us in the face, we're forgetting that it's all about the relationship, right? You'll never change or help change relationships without that, right? Why would I change my behavior if you and I don't have anything going on, right? And so if I'm not connected to the community, what do I care, right? So really coming back to that. People, I'm sure, get quite sick of me saying this. It's such a kind of obvious thing, right? It's like common sense. But when we're in the moment, it's really hard to do, right? If we're stressed, it's really hard to do. We take those behaviors personally, right? Oh, not today, buddy, right? Why does he, that kind of thing. And so we can kind of get ourselves into that trap of looking at all the things that are going wrong instead of saying, oh, hey, see my little glass up there? I hope you could all tell it was a glass half full. The glass is half full, right? These horrible kind of things happened in COVID, really put great stress on us. They were already there. This just really blew it up a bit. So really, I don't want to say favor, but the one positive maybe we can pull out of this is that it put a spotlight on the stuff that was already there, right? And this can maybe help change our perspective in a very positive way and, really kind of provide opportunity that, going forward, COVID or no COVID, our teaching, our building, our kind of program is going to be relationship-based, because we know that it's all about relationships, right? But we know that the relationships are the basis of all learning in all domains. The relationship is the basis of that. And it's a nice, warm, fuzzy thing that makes us smile and feel good, but it is actually literally required. right? And so, and science will back that up. So it's the genuine connections, right? It's not just the, hey, how you doing kind of thing, oh, love you, have a good day, right? It's the genuine connections. It's the eye-level contact, it's the taking time. And I don't have the time today to go into all the details of that. That's kind of part of what consultation is, whether it's through OPEP or whether it's ongoing consultation, which we also offer. I was going to think too about the consultation thing that sometimes I notice our public school programs really do not want consultation. They don't want somebody in the classroom. I completely get it. Some districts might not permit that because they think we're coming in to observe kids and who are we? We're strangers. That'll upset parents. Because we're not asking for any identifying information when we come out of children, we don't even need parent permission to come in. It's up to you, right? What fits your world. But what could be helpful sometimes, especially if you're getting a lot of referrals from or requests for evaluations from kids who are in childcare centers in the community, is we're already doing this, but trying to share this information with those community centers and programs about things like OPEP and Triple P, right? Because we serve them primarily, and that might sometimes be where the root of starts, right? The behaviors kind of start there, and then they say, oh, this kid has to have a disability. Let's send him over to XYZ school district and have him evaluated and somehow push to get him into that program, right? And it could be very much not the case. It's behavior, it's not a disability, right? It's behavior, it's not a mental health diagnosis. And so I don't know what mechanisms you might have in place if you have a lot of contact with your community providers or how that looks, but sharing that information with them is helpful. We try to do the same, but I think there's just no way we cover all that territory. So thank you for your time today. I realize that a lot of these are things that you already know. It's just a matter sometimes of stepping back and saying, oh, are we putting this in practice? Again, because we have so many stressors and things on our plate. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions. I lost the chat box, but.
Well, I was going to say thank you very much for sharing this information. I think sometimes it's also the reassurance that the districts are doing the right things.
Yeah.
And reaffirming that. And I think you created a lot of affirmation to people that deal with it every day, just, in very.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean, it
appreciated.
is amazing. I mean, even our community providers, right? Like, 10, 12 hours a day, you might be there, some genius decided that one person should be able to watch 10 3-year-olds by herself all day or himself all day, right? And now with this, 7 of them are ripping the room apart, and, you have this much training, right? And yeah, so they definitely want to kind of hand that off to you. For sure. But thank you so much for your time. And two, I was going to say too, that this is my contact information. It will be on the PowerPoint if you get it. My role right now is to work through the SST 11 team. But if you have any questions or you're looking for something or any concerns, please feel free to contact me. And if it's a matter of any kind of services or something more in depth, then I would just speak with Kim or Aaron or Steve about how I might get those services or that information to you. Thank you so much. Thank you all the people on Zoom too. It's so weird. I know you're out there. Thanks, Steve.
No, thank you very much. Again, thank you to Pitty for her time and efforts putting that together for you guys. The resource folder should be updated with all the current updated materials that we have. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, which is fine. You guys get some time back. We just want to take a couple minutes as we close things out today and with COSIS. This is, I think, our last get-together PD of the year, in special ed world at least, to just kind of seek some feedback about anything you've heard this year about our PDs, anything that you want next year that you think we've totally missed the ball on. We try to send out surveys and things like that. We know you guys get inundated with filling that stuff out. So we try to limit that, but just create a platform, some conversation around. We are, I know a couple schools had teachers participate in the new Intervention Specialist Academy. We are looking to kind of scale that up and out. We had a huge showing this year, actually, way more than we ever anticipated, attending that. So we're going to build that up and out next year. Kim and Aaron have definitely been the brains and the brunt behind all of that work. So I do appreciate their time on that. We also have discussed, we are going to kind of split our IEP and ETR training into 2 different sessions, like 2 days. So one day is IEP and ETR that's going to be geared more towards teachers and best practice things, how to use the ETR to write meaningful goals, collecting data, things like that, while kind of hitting on compliance within that conversation to help alleviate, the administrative things that come with that. And then another day is going to be geared more towards administrators. So that's going to be probably a little bit heavier on the compliance side. We just have, with Kim and Aaron being fresh out of the districts, we just have a great, library of and resources with them. They're very still connected to further, I'm further removed from that at this time, but they're still connected to what the teachers' needs really are. And that was something they expressed. So I'm certainly on board with making that more directed towards them. We talked about, we've also thrown out the idea, we're still working on logistics about an internal monitoring kind of series, work session, PD, not really like a sit and get, but really kind of aimed at groups, internal monitoring groups and districts coming in and getting like a brief overview of what OD is really pushing this internal monitoring thing. I don't know if it's ever going to become a requirement, but it's certainly something they look at if you are lucky participant of an on-site review. There are also questions in some of the self-review summary reports about that. Our initial discussions are just kind of bringing in teams. So like we would have 4 or 5 teams that come, they get kind of a brief overview of what it is, what OD's expectations are, what the importance of it is, why you should, things like that. And then creating like work days where your team can come in and get on-site support from the state support team around like, hey, we went through this record. We have 7 people who are seeing 7 different things. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Kind of morphing that into like a network improvement committee, like or a community, a NIC, and then kind of discussing the problems that you're seeing internally around internal monitoring. So that was kind of our idea there. Trying to think, do we have any other? Acela, like I said, is going on. COSI's, again, we will continue with this next year.
With the new intervention specialist academy, the idea behind it initially was for new intervention specialists, 1 to 3 years in. We had an array of participants. I mean, there were people there that have been in education for 20 years, and I think they actually got great information from it. So we break it down into a couple different sessions. What we want to do different next year, it was mostly online this year. We want to be in person next year just for them to build that network. I think that was a big key that we weren't able to really tap into this year that we really want to. But I would encourage, even though we call it new intervention specialist, if you as directors or coordinators have people in mind in your district that would benefit from understanding certain aspects of special ed, really encourage them to sign up for this.
We also talked about in being next year that we will be, more fully staffed than we are this year, is kind of adding that coaching component to that intervention specialist academy. So like there's been districts that reach out, like I have a new teacher, she's great with relationships, really struggling with like the instructional side of things. Can you help coach? Can you observe things like that? So really kind of making it for like allowing us to support the districts through coaching of those new intervention specialists, but eliminate that barrier of like a supervisor being the one that does it. That was kind of something the districts have expressed to us, like, we don't want to be the ones coaching because we also wear the OTES hat and we're responsible for their employment. And can you guys help? So we talked about making that a component of it as well. It was a great experience. I mean, we had somebody that left that kind of had the idea in mind, and Kim and Aaron just like totally ran with it. They were excellent and amazing, and I appreciate their help so much with that. But we had one guy who was like retired he worked in a factory for 25 years and he was retired, went back to school. We had some other people that were like gen ed teachers that went back in intervention. So it was really cool to see the 22, 23-year-olds fresh out of college having conversations and same struggles as people that have been in the professional world, 20, 25 years.
We had some long-term subs that were a part of it, which was really
Long-term
good.
subs, a lot of mostly younger people, but it was a good experience. So I guess I want to throw that out there to you guys. Do you have anything that you're just like, hey, we can't find support on this? Can you guys do this? Consider it, think about it,
We're
support
also
us.
bringing back the transition network.
That's right.
Help with the shift with transitions.
Yeah, Transition Network, we are bringing back. Unfortunately, with our staffing situation, some of that stuff had to get cut off the list, but the Transition Network is going to be bigger, better, and stronger than ever next year with Erin taking over. So we're excited and confident in that. She's more of our networky person. So that will be coming back next year. That's also something that's in the past that was always really well attended, and that's a common theme in our feedback is bring back the Transition Network. I think a lot of those people in districts work in isolation. There's one, maybe two, if you have that in transition, people doing that stuff. So Erin's gonna bring that back. And so I don't know, do you guys have any other feedback about what PDs you think? We do have some flexibility in what we design. A lot of our stuff is like, we have a performance grant agreement with ODE that says you must do this, this, and this. So unfortunately, we can't do everything we would love to do, but we're certainly open to ideas. I know that, the demands in the district change as time changes. So we want to make sure we stay current and up with that.
I think if you have other things too, the other ideas we've had is putting together like these little hour-long podcasts that we would develop on our own. But we're open to whatever those ideas are, that maybe it wouldn't be a session everybody attended, but we could have those to where they would just be a on-demand learning. So if there's a particular topic, let us know. We'll see if that's something we can fit into the scope of our grant agreement.
Any feedback, questions? Anybody online have any feedback as far as that goes? No? You must be doing a great job, boss.
That's what it sounds like.
We'll wrap things up today. Thank you guys that were able to join us virtually. Thank you for those who are here in person. Thank you to Pitty and Aaron and Angie and everybody else that participated in the conversation today. It's truly appreciated. It makes this time in this group very, I think, for us, beneficial. And we always love seeing people and interacting with you guys. As things wind down with the profiles, reach out. I know my name, I was, I guess, the lucky winner, listed at the bottom of all the profiles. So people typically will just send me an email. If you don't know who your consultant is, or you're having trouble connecting, let us know. Let me know. My email address is there. Contact any of us, really. And we will make sure to get you to the right person. Again, that's the 31st of March for that deadline. Wishing you all the best as the school year winds down. We will hopefully hit the ground running next year and see all of you in person and your staff and collaborate with you. And so we truly appreciate you being here, and safe travels home. Thank you to everyone in virtual world. I presume you can see us, but I'm not sure. There's no more questions. I will go ahead and end the recording and.
Remind everybody to fill out the surveys.
Yes, correct.
We really do spend time going through those. That's where a lot of these changes are coming from, or how we're changing some of that PD next year.
Yes, please fill out that survey if you are able to, and that way you'll also get your certificate. Thank you to everyone online. We hope that you have a good afternoon, a good weekend. Happy St. Patrick's Day, happy March Madness, and enjoy yourselves.
All the